Good evening and welcome on in to the overnight edition of From Day One. Tonight, Art Bell, and I've actually got a topic, well, at least a guest, that I know a lot of you have been asking for. So tonight, Art Bell welcomes in Richard Hoagland, of all people, to take us through the overnight. From Dark Matter, the Sirius XM short-lived version of Art Bell's show. Tonight, part one of Richard Hoagland. Let's begin.
This is Dark Matter with your host, Art Bell. Now, here's Art. Extraterrestrial radio, actually. Broadcast from my home in Pahrump, Nevada, immediately adjacent to Area 51. A few programming notes, actually. If you want to follow me, I'm ArtBell51 on Twitter. And I go there and make announcements every now and then. That's ArtBell5151 on Twitter. Email me. Probably the best email to use is artbell@artbell.com. How's that? artbell@artbell.com. It will reach me. Trust me. Now, I was told that this program now reaches Canadian listeners. Okay, we're going to find out about that right now. I have just left 3 phone lines open, and I would like them filled with 3 tasty Canadians. Please call Canadians tasty Canadians. Anyway, if you're in Canada, you can help us confirm that really there, that you really can call by calling. So call right now if you're in Canada. Only if you're in Canada, call 1-55732-5836. Or 1-855-REAL-UFO. That's 1-855-REAL-UFO. Only from Canada. So we're going to find out if we've really got Canada there. Now, updating on a few things. The weekend schedule. Here's what's going to happen, I am told. And they told me this. Over the next, and by the way, you can screen those Canadians, make sure they're really Canadians. We're on hold. We're not. Make sure they're Canadians. We are going to do something interesting over the weekend, meaning Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We're going to replay 3 shows twice. That's right, 3 shows twice. We're going to pick 3 from the week and replay them twice. Actually, every day, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So if you missed something or a friend did, they're going to get a chance to probably hear it. Then I got a lot of emails about how are all the APs. They're very well, thank you. And that's Art Bell, Aaron Bell, Isabel. And then at least as many about my cats. My cats are fine. This is pretty incredible. Yeti, who I'm sure you all remember, is now, check it out, 22 years old. A lot of you will have been listening way back when we bounded into our yard. He is now 22 years old. And his bones are stiff, but he motivates around. And when he has to, he can run at about 1,000 miles an hour. Abby is fine. Dolly is fine. All 3 of these cats have been around the world now 3 times. They've been around the world 3 times. That's right. I shipped them back and forth, and they had to go through Europe, Scandinavia, actually. So leave that in the Philippines. Remember, folks, if you want to wish me well, dealing from Russia here, if you want to wish me well, it's Roswell's. Roswell's Art, that means welcome back, happy to have you. If not, then just get the word. Have nothing good to say, don't say anything. Times of India. really sad. There were predictions that 2013 would see an upsurge in solar activity. The sun would be going nuts and geomagnetic storms abounding. Communication systems have fallen. Just really get it. Well, hasn't worked out that way. Something went wrong. Terribly wrong. This is the weakest solar cycle that we have had in 100 years. I repeat, 100 years. Now, I don't know if my Canadian callers are on there or not. I guess, okay. Let's find out, shall we, very quickly? I'm very curious. And, dark matter. There, I think we've done it. You are on the air. Getting good vibes. Is that a Canadian? Hello there.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Not bad. Have you had your station on in Canada, like Toronto, like AM radio?
No.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'm.
No, we're on Sirius XM. Where have you been?
Oh no, I think I've heard of you on the radio 2 or 3 years ago in AM radio, but maybe I'm just mistaking you with someone else.
Oh, no. You're not mistaking me with anybody. I was on AM radio for, most of my adult life.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because my brother used to listen to you all the time at 3 a.m. and
Yes.
3 or 4 a.m.
That's right.
Oh, nice. Can I?
So wait a minute. Wait.
Sure?
Where are you? You're in Toronto, is that right?
Yeah, just in Etobicoke.
Yeah, all right. And you're a Sirius XM listener?
Yeah, for the past 3 years.
Okay, and you found this show how?
Well, I listened to Rotten Tomatoes on this channel.
Yes.
And I just finished work at 10 o'clock, and
right.
the station was on, so I started listening to it, and I said, hey, that's the same voice as what I heard a few years ago.
So I have Rotten Tomatoes to thank for your being here.
Correct.
Oh, that's really cool. All right, Rotten Tomatoes, thank you very much. There is one tasty Canadian.
Thank you.
And you're very welcome. Take care. And I think, right, you too. Let's try going to another tasty Canadian. Hello there.
Hello.
You are on Dark Matter, and I hope you're in Canada.
Yes, I am.
What part?
I'm West Coast, Vancouver.
Okay, West Coast. And how, pray tell, did you hear about the show?
I was a listener for years and years and years. And I had wanted, I actually had kind of wanted a Sirius radio for a while. I just hadn't bothered. And then I heard somehow, I think I was keeping an eye on your website, or I saw an announcement somewhere. I'm not even 100% sure where. But as soon as I saw that you were coming back on here, that was enough. I bought it right away.
Cool. All right. Well, I really, really appreciate your call. And it's good to know that you're listening up there in Canada.
Yeah, just great to hear your voice again, and I'll be listening from now on.
All right, my friend. Take care.
Take it easy.
All right. I think we've got a problem with our software here for controlling these phones. We'll straighten that out. I may have one more tasty Canadian to go. So let's make that switch and go to the next tasty Canadian, possibly here. I don't know. You're on Dark Matter. Hello?
Hi, how you doing? I got a little bit of a cold today, and I'm calling you from Montreal, Canada.
Montreal. All right. Well, that kind of does it. I mean, that's all the way across the country, so cool. It works. Do you have any trouble getting through?
No, I didn't have no trouble getting through. I just hit the redial or dial the number, and after I hit the redial, I wanted to ask you about the signal on XM.
Sure.
Now, I get it. We have a repeater here in Montreal. The repeater system was down today, but I was able to bring my antenna, put it outside on my balcony, but still receive the signal. Now,
wow. All right. Now, the way the Sirius satellites work is really cool. What they do is they go from Canada all the way down to the South Pole and then make a figure 8 and come back up. And as they're over Canada, they sort of loiter. They spend a longer time. It's the kind of orbit it's in. And so it spends a longer time over your head, about 29,000 miles above Earth.
Okay.
And you know what they say, the higher the antenna, the bigger the signal.
Now, that kind of a signal that they send, is that sort of like a beam of light, like a dime almost? Because I noticed if I move the antenna a little bit, you can almost like lose the signal.
Right.
Is it like a...
Well, yeah, it's a kind of spot beam, but it's
like
a
a
broad
laser.
one.
Sort of like a laser?
Well, no, more like a flashlight.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, the old-fashioned flashlights.
Yeah.
So it kind of covers a lot. Okay, listen, thank you very, very much.
Nice.
I wanted to be sure we were getting into Canada. All right, there we go.
Yeah, I'm listening to you on
So, how about that? Not about Canada anymore, I guess, huh? The Pope, amazingly to me, this is a real wow. The Pope is warning that the Catholic Church's moral structure might fall like his words, house of cards, if it doesn't balance its divisive rules about abortion. It is contraception. My goodness gracious, what kind of Pope is this? He's really going for change. Now, I'm married to a Catholic, as you know, and leads serious matters to so many Catholics, certainly here in the U.S. That's really big news. This Pope is going to make big changes. You can stop calling in Canada. Okay. We've got it covered, apparently, but you'll be welcome to the show. Mexico has trouble. The horror there. Storm after storm, and now dirt and rock. Them tumbling down a hillside. There's 97 dead. They're really going through it. In Mexico. In Syria, they're moving around chemical weapons like a little shell game. Meanwhile, Al-Qaeda militants seized a town near the Turkish border on Thursday after expelling Western-backed rebels from the area, demonstrating the growing power of jihadis and great. Just absolutely great. Al-Qaeda militants take a town near the Turkish border. Just perfect. All right. Blew away too much time. Richard C. Hoagland is coming up in a moment. My old friend Richard. Richard C. Hoagland is a former NASA consultant and former science advisor to Walter Cronkite and CBS News, all during the epic Apollo missions to the moon. That must have been so cool. He's author of 2 best-selling books on his 40 years of intensive research into the possibility of a former ancient solar system-wide high-tech civilization. The monuments of Mars, City on the Edge of Forever, and with my dark mission, The Secret History of NASA. Hoagland is currently principal investigator of the not-for-profit Space Research and Public Policy Organization, the Enterprise mission. It's been a long time. Coming up in a moment, Richard C. Can you see it now? Hoagland. So from space and 29,000 miles above your head, I'm Art Bell, and this is Dark Matter. Can you tell I like that one? Always play it at the beginning of the show or near the beginning, because then I can play it again. It's XM, baby. He knows how to do it, doesn't he? All right, time for Richard C. Hoagland. Speaking of heartaches, here he is from New Mexico. Richard, man, it's been a long time since I've heard your voice.
Sidonia's, Art. Sidonia's.
Sidonia's.
Well, we don't do UFOs, so it has to be Sidonia.
Yeah, now I know why Rush did what he did.
It saves so much time.
Oh, it really does.
And redundancy.
Your phone, Richard, I'm hearing noise and weirdness on your phone line.
Shouldn't be.
Well, there
Not
is.
on my end.
Yeah, it's kind of it's down a little bit better. It's kind of a weird noise.
It's weird because we had the phone company out here a couple of days ago checking everything just to make sure.
Oh, that would have done it. There's like a tone and then some noise and a tone and some noise.
That's bizarre. It's probably them. Them.
All right, well, one of the breaks, we'll see what we can do about it. All right, look, this is going to be a fun night. I know it is. I'm looking at your first image, and we're going to argue about that.
Okay.
And that's what, 1967?
1967, unmanned surveyor spacecraft on the moon after sunset.
Yeah, I know, but shattered lunar dome?
Well, think of this. You've got a TV camera. This is an old-style Vidicon TV camera, which is insensitive as hell. You know, I don't know whether you ever were in a TV studio back then, but they were the best we had, and they were terrible compared to what we have now, CCDs and all that.
I'm buying it so far, sure.
Okay, and the idea was to, after sunset on the moon, which has no air, no atmosphere, to look toward the horizon when the sun got like about 1 solar diameter below the horizon, which takes like an hour or so because the moon rotates really slowly, like, you know, once every 30 days.
Right.
So then they started taking pictures. And what they noticed immediately on several of the surveyor missions, not all of them, because they landed at different places on the moon, but at many of them, was they had this incredible, what they called, beaded set of glows, horizon glow, along the western horizon. And it was very bright and completely unexpected, should not have existed, because in a vacuum, when you cut the sun off, it should be like, you know, cutting off with a sharp knife. You know, one moment you're in daylight, and the next moment you're in pitch dark.
Okay, so that I understand, this is a lunar sunset, basically, right? After sunset.
After lunar sunset.
Okay.
Like,
all right, got it.
Like a half hour to an hour.
Right.
And above the brilliant beating along the horizon, and you see those little jagged, dark things sticking up?
Sure.
Those are rock shadows. The horizon here is around 2 miles away. Because you're on the moon is smaller than the Earth. On the Earth, the horizon is roughly 30 miles away. If you're 6 foot high and the lunar camera was on surveyor at about a 6 foot elevation, human size. And then above that brilliant beating was all this light. Now, they had expected if they took time exposures, because these cameras actually could take a time exposure, and they could record stars down to about 6 magnitude, which is about the dimmest star that a human eye can see in a good dark place like a desert or on the ocean.
I can see stars.
In the shot.
Yeah, sure.
The bright one over on the right is, I think, Antares.
All right, look, I better stop. I better tell everybody, look, what we're talking about is on artbell.com. So everybody listening, you know, if you want to follow along, you really have to go to the website, www.artbell.com.
And Keith, on the right-hand side is put a thing called 919 Hoagland Images for Tonight, making it really easy. Just click on that.
Okay.
And that will take you to a series. We're going to go through these by the
series of photographs. All right, this is taken by Surveyor 6, first one, November of 67.
Yep.
And my question, Richard, just to cut to the chase here, you're not trying to tell us that there's really a shattered lunar dome that we're looking at, are you?
Of course I am. Why would I not be telling you that? That's the truth.
Okay. Fine.
Okay.
Why would there be a dome on the moon?
Well, because you're on a place where there's no air. If you ever had people, and they were kind of like us, needed oxygen, needed pressure and all that, you have to have something to contain the atmosphere.
I've got that. But, excuse me, but this is a camera that would, to take this picture, would almost have to be inside the dome, right?
No. Why?
Well, because
we actually
sort of.
Well, hang on. If you're let's assume a hypothetical model.
Or am I looking at the edge of the outer edge of the dome?
Exactly. If you're outside, you're looking in.
Okay, fine.
And if you're inside the shadow dome, you're looking out. The key thing is it's a wall of geometric glass.
Right.
Now, we've all had the experience of driving west at sunset or east at sunrise on a long trip with windshield full of bugs and scratches and dust and all that, and you know you can barely see out of it because of a phenomenon known as scattering. The sunlight bounces off every little imperfection on the glass, including scratches if there are any, and you can't see out because of the haze created by the bouncing sunlight, right?
Yes, I even see a scratch on there, like it was.
Well, that's probably a hair in the enlarger when NASA did this picture. This was scanned from a NASA print. I got an early generation print I got from the National Space Science Data Center at Goddard Space Flight Center outside Washington, D.C. years and years and years ago. In fact, I probably got it before you and I even first met.
All right, but here's the thing, Richard. Please don't explain the definition of dome to me again. I understand that. I guess what I'm really asking is, come on, dome? If it's a dome, and I acknowledge it looks like one with a hole in it, but if it's a dome, that means, A, we put it there, or the Russians put it there, or the extraterrestrials put it there. Or what? It's got, or what?
We put it there a long time ago.
Okay, run that one by me.
Solar system is 4.5 billion years old, is currently figured, right?
Sure.
Humans on Earth are supposedly a few million years on this planet, Homo sapiens.
Right.
That's a huge amount of time to have all kinds of things happen, which the archaeological record would have no record of because it doesn't preserve stuff. There's a TV show called Earth Without People, which I presume you've seen.
Oh, yes. Very
And they show how incredibly rapidly, like in a couple of centuries, everything we think of as amazing is gone. And in 1,000 years, it's dust underfoot, and you'd only find it by some kind of chemical assay or digging in the ground for stuff that was protected and buried. The difference is on the moon, where there's no air, no oxygen, no rusting, no degradation, and the only erosion is from micrometeorites. Structures.
Right, but Richard, but you're saying, just to be clear, that this was a prior civilization that got wiped out by whatever means that had attained space travel from Earth. Earthlings put it there, and that's what we're seeing. Yes?
Maybe. It's one of the possibilities. The other possibility is it's genuine ETs, meaning someone from some other star system, or genuine aliens, because the definitions, you've got to really get your definitions down. To me, an extraterrestrial is anybody who lives not on Earth. Extraterrestrial.
Sure.
Aliens are extraterrestrials who don't have our DNA. So if you have human beings who live some other place than Earth, they're relatives, they're kin, they're ETs, but they're not aliens.
That's all? Absolutely.
And from this data, remember, this is official NASA data. All we did was to scan it into the computer from a print I got from one of my sources at Goddard years ago. Paper trail, absolutely unquestionably from NASA. And when we scanned it and simply amped the contrast and the brightness, bingo, this amazing geometry pops out above the horizon, above where there should be nothing at all.
Right.
There should be nothing but a few stars.
I have a question. Obviously, it's been a long time since back in 1967, right? And at some point, NASA had to have explained what it is that we're seeing in this photograph. I want to know what they say.
Okay, NASA says, and it's actually in the caption, the brilliant beating along the horizon, they are attributing to electrostatically suspended dust a few inches above the lunar surface due to the electric fields between the daylight side and the nighttime on what's called the terminator, which moves westward at several miles per hour because of the slow rotation rate of the moon.
And the hole?
Well, what they don't explain, because they can't, is all that exquisite geometric stuff rising miles above that horizon. If you do the geometry, if you actually work out the trigonometry, those things are beyond the horizon by many, many miles.
Well, are we looking at things that really are out there at the horizon, or are we looking at part of the so-called dome?
Well, no. When I say dome, you got to think big.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Lunar domes on the moon are not like the little tiny things at McMurdo Sound of the Antarctic, a few hundred feet across. These things, if they're real, and our data over the last few decades says they're there, are maybe hundreds of miles across. In fact, one of the models is that the lunar maria, those dark patches on the side of the moon we can see from the Earth, the so-called man in the moon, each of those roughly circular dark areas, like this was the Surveyor 6 landed in the middle one called Sinus Medi, which is the dark spots right in the center of the moon when you look at the full moon. By the way, I'm looking at the gibbous moon rising over the Sandia Mountains here in New Mexico. It's really gorgeous. Nighttime in the desert, moonlight.
Oh, I know.
Anyway, so if you got a window, look out with a telescope, and you'll see right in the middle of that brilliant circle, the moon, lit by the sun behind you, this dark little splotch called Sinus Medi, the middle bay in Latin, and that whole bay may have been the dome. Surveyor 6 landed fortuitously, or maybe NASA knew something, not too far from one of the edges of that dome. You're seeing a tiny, tiny, tiny portion of a huge, ancient, shattered glass structure. I got to emphasize the shattered, because what you see there is not a uniform structure. It's got all kinds of holes and ragged places, and it's been beaten to hell in a handbag.
Okay, all right, question. If it is a shattered dome, then, I can understand how our telescopes would not see it.
Hold on a second. My apologies. The tape stopped on me. Let me re-cue it.
Landed fortuitously, or maybe NASA knew something, not too far from one of the edges of that dome. You're seeing a tiny, tiny, tiny portion of a huge, ancient, shattered glass structure. I got to emphasize the shattered, because what you see there is not a uniform structure. It's got all kinds of holes and ragged places, and it's been beaten to hell in a handbag.
Okay, all right, question. If it is a shattered dome, then, I can understand how our telescopes would not see a dome made of glass. It's glass, so you're not going to see it.
Exactly.
But wait a minute. Once a dome shatters, then you have glass at every angle under the sun or in front of the sun. So if it was really shattered, shouldn't we be seeing it with telescopes from Earth, as shattered pieces reflecting every now and then?
Well, depending upon the rate of the turnover of the regolith on the moon, the basic lunar dirt,
Yes.
it would quickly meld into the background, because you're looking straight down. Remember, from the Earth, you're looking like down through the roof to the top, the zenith. Is on the ground would quickly be mangled and by meteors turned into the dirt and soil. And so very quickly, relatively speaking in space, a few thousand years, it would be indistinguishable. Now, what's really interesting is that when the astronauts who landed years after, 2 years after this photo was taken, was the roughly the Apollo 11 mission. And 2 years almost to the day after this picture was taken was the Apollo 12 mission with Alan Bean and Pete Conrad on Apollo 12, not far from where this thing is. And they brought back rock samples, right? The proportion of shattered glass in the lunar surface regolith is an extraordinary 20, 30, 40% by actual measurement in the lab here on Earth from the lunar samples. Lunar glass occupied a huge fraction of the materials the astronauts brought back. Now, it's been attributed to to volcanic eruption somewhere at an ancient time, or more likely meteor bombardment. But the surface of the moon is basically like the surface of the Earth, the rocky surface. It's silicon dioxide. It's like sand, which is
All right,
made glass out of.
Right, that's glass, and now I'm getting an echo for some reason. Richard, are you, like, in the high 90 percentile range sure that that's what this is a dome?
Well, science is always about corroboration, right?
Give me a percentage of sureness.
Oh, I'm up in the high 90s, yes.
High 90s?
Yeah, this
Wow.
is not the only data we got. We've got data from unmanned missions. We've got the data from the manned missions. We have data from the U.S. space program. We've got data from the Russian program. We've got data from the Indian space program. We've got data from the Japanese mission, Selene, from the Chinese mission, Chang-2, I think was its name.
All this data corroborating not this photograph, but
the general idea of ancient glass structures. I mean, look, NASA in its own projected plans when they did subcontracting in the 60s looking toward a vigorous space program. What the hell happened with that, by the way?
You know, I really hope you're right, Richard. Honest to God, I hope you're right.
Well, we have to look for the evidence. It's not about hope, it's about the evidence.
Maybe we have to go back to the moon. You want evidence?
And we are going back. We are literally tonight with an unmanned spacecraft. No, well, we need to go with men and women, of course. But even instruments, unmanned spacecraft, if it has the right instrumentation, can confirm this model. And it just so happens, in honor of your return to the air, NASA a few days ago launched an unmanned mission called the LADEE mission, which stands for Lunar Atmosphere Dust Environment Explorer. Because
they didn't launch it for my...
Well,
come on, Richard.
As Nuri says, there are no such things as coincidences. It's a pretty damn interesting coincidence.
Anyway, yeah.
So look,
I want to believe, Richard. There's a website called that. It's a good one, too. I want to believe that somebody put it on there, that we did it, they did it, we did it in an earlier incarnation, whatever. I want to believe it because
we won't find out who did this until we land with men and women and we begin serious exploration, which I hope was going to happen after the Bush Initiative, when, the president announced back in 2004 we were going back to the moon.
Right.
And then a very funny thing happened, didn't it? Those plans all went awry. New president comes in. Everybody's looking to see what Obama's going to do with NASA, with space exploration. Is he going to do with Kennedy, etc.? And he cancels all of the Bush ideas and then sets us off on a journey that no one in NASA seems to think they can actually do in a reasonable time frame, which is to go to some asteroid and completely ignore the moon with men and women for the foreseeable future.
Well, we are trying to go to an asteroid, right?
We are trying to not only go to one, we're trying to go and capture one with a robotic probe, bring it back using solar-powered ion rockets to vector its trajectory around the sun into an orbit around the moon, park it in a very long elliptical orbit around the moon, and then when the new NASA launch system, the Space Launch System, launches toward the end of the decade, 2021, I think, make that a first visit by American astronauts in their new Orion space vehicle, where they would basically go into lunar orbit, rendezvous with this 500-ton mini asteroid that NASA had captured and placed in the orbit so it would be accessible, and then do all kinds of preparatory work for analyzing asteroids, building using asteroid materials, developing an industrial infrastructure using asteroid materials, all of that with the convenience of only having to go to and from the moon orbit, which is roughly 3 days away.
Pretty cool. Then when we're done with it, we can aim it at Syria and be done.
That would give us something to think about. There's actually folks on the internet who are actually saying that this is a terrible idea because of exactly that.
Well, yeah, you hope for no mistakes when you're dealing with asteroids.
No. Oh, the idea is when you put this into orbit, you do it in such a way that if you do screw up, there's no way it can impact the Earth. The worst thing that can happen is it falls on the moon and makes another hole in one of these ancient domes.
Right.
I want you to go to photo number 2.
Right.
This is really important. Remember, the photo number 1 is a print I scanned, and my detractors say, oh, you just, didn't clean your scanner and all that crud is on your... Yeah, really, guys. But
here I am.
All right, so go to number 2. Now, you have a way to toggle back and forth easily?
Not easily.
But you can look at one and then the other and then go back and forth, right?
I guess. This looks like it's taken further away.
Nope.
Almost. Well, it does.
Oh, it's
further away.
Well,
it's just how it's cropped, I guess.
It's exactly how it's cropped, yeah.
Okay. Right.
It's the same image, but it's a 2009 NASA version from the NSSDC.
Really?
Yep.
Really. Now that is interesting, Richard. So you've got 2 pictures taken at very different...
But there's 2 different processings. One, remember, back in the 60s, we didn't have digital. Everything was dark rooms, photographs. Remember film, guys? Remember Tri-X and Ektachrome and all those things?
Sure.
90% of our audience doesn't know what we're talking about.
Kodachrome.
Yeah, Kodachrome, wonderful Kodachrome, yeah. This is a digital version from the original magnetic tapes that were recorded from the signal sent back by Surveyor in '67.
Right.
Stored in the National Archive, the NASA Archive, the National Space Science Data Center. That's what the NSSDC stands for. And when you click on the full image, because when you go to these thumbnails on the image page, you click on them again and it takes you to the full...
Yeah, don't worry, I've got the full image.
Okay. In the bottom left, you see the URL?
Yes, Source, Berkeley, EDU. Right.
That is a paper by a bunch of lunar specialists published in a peer-reviewed journal in 2009, where I got this image from.
All right, if you're just tuning in, we're looking at these photographs on artbell.com. Look on the right-hand side, and it says what, Richard?
Well,
Richard Hoagland photographs or something.
Yeah, Hoagland images for tonight.
Yeah, this is number 2, and it's a dome. It's a dome on the moon.
Okay, it's a part of a dome. All right, you see how there's kind of like geometry. It comes up from the horizon and goes down like a cone?
Yes.
That's because of the light scattering characteristics of glass and sunlight when the sun is below the horizon.
I'll kind of buy that. Okay, that's amazing.
You can duplicate this on a pool table in a dark room. What you do is you get some plastic, like those plastic egg cartons or plastic strips,
right.
And you basically glue them together in a jumble. And you put them on the edge of the table, you turn out the lights in the room, you take a flashlight, which you were talking to your Canadian friend in the last segment about, and you put it below the edge of the table, and you shine it on the plastic creation.
Sure, I can see how that would work, yeah. All right, Richard, hold on. Hold it right there. We're going to probably see if we can reset that phone line, or maybe we can't. It's livable, kind of. Dome on the moon. Maybe. I'm saying here, maybe. And if it is a dome on the moon, then as Richard pointed out, there's only one of 3 possibilities, and all of them are pretty cool. Right? It was us. It was aliens. I kind of like the it was us. We'll be right back. When I think back on all the crap I learned in high school. Michael, that I actually started singing. I do that when I love for music, and I think I got the first tiny syllable out and realized Oh, no. Welcome back to Dark Matter, everybody. I'm Art Bell. My guest is Richard C. Hoagland. And here's somebody who says, Art, I have absolutely no idea what Richard is talking about. I'm not following this dome on the moon thing. No idea. All right, well, look, it's up to you, but what we're talking about is at artbell.com, my website. So go there, artbell.com. Look for the photographs. We're now on the second photograph, which is photograph number 2 of a dome on the moon. Now, this would have to be a dome that either we put there, I'll get back to that in a moment, or the Russians put there, or E.T. put there. One of the three. If it was us, then it would have been an earlier civilization. And you have to admit, that's certainly a possibility, that it was an earlier civilization. After all, it is our moon. Why would somebody want to build a condo on somebody else's moon? So I'm going for the it was us a long time ago idea at best, Richard. Hello, Richard?
Yeah, I'm right here. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I said I'm going for the it was us a long time ago.
Yeah, and it's not current us or the Russians for a simple reason. It's all in shattered ruins. It's incredibly old. Given that nothing happens on the moon except under very long time scales, basically micrometeorite erosion, that's it.
Right.
There's no earthquakes, there's no atmosphere, there's no hurricanes, no storms, no nothing except micrometeorite abrasion. And big and small rocks occasionally falling from the sky. All the shattered holes and disorganized stuff you see is because it's really been battered to hell. We can say hell on Sirius now, right?
Oh, yes.
So, now, I want you on the second picture, look on the left. You see those faint linear lines of light, almost like a staircase, going from the horizon up toward the top left, toward the...
Not so much, no.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, look closely. They're there.
I see stars. Is it to the right of the stars, toward the light, or to the left of the stars?
No, it's to the left of the peak brightness. Above the beads. Above where it says Surveyor Internal Light Reflections, above the horizon. On the left, horizontal lines paralleling the horizon.
Well, yeah, of course, I've seen those in both photographs.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought I was looking for something new.
No.
Okay, fine. What about them?
The solar corona doesn't give you geometry. It doesn't give you staircases made of glass stepping up into the sky, into infinity.
Okay.
So the hallmark of intelligence anywhere in the universe, this comes from my old friend Carl Sagan, who said when he wrote Cosmos, the first sign of intelligent life on Earth is in the geometric regularity of its constructions.
Okay.
So that's your rule of thumb. If you look at any planetary surface on any NASA image, either from the surface, from orbit, through the Hubble telescope, spacecraft going past any other place, even on other stars when we ever get there, which at this rate we're not going to, the only way you know if it's a dead civilization that they used to be there is by looking at their geometric constructions. So when you see geometry, and the key thing here is these two pictures are separated by 30-some years, the two versions of the same shot.
That is amazing.
And it's in an official NASA publication of the results of study of the surveyor data building toward this current unmanned mission, which is en route to the moon tonight, even as we speak.
Yeah, okay. All right, Richard, let's say that what you're telling me...
But there's more data.
All right, hold the data. Let's say that what you're telling me becomes confirmed, that we send either a manned or unmanned mission to the moon, and we actually confirm that this was, and what's left of it is, a dome that was on the moon. What effect do you think that would have on the world?
Yeah, you want to cut to the chase. What the hell does it mean?
No, I want to...
Well, because a lot of these people in the audience, they think I'm nuts.
I know, I know, and
Because they haven't seen enough data yet.
All right, but Richard, I
Well,
want to cut to it.
the implication is either we're not alone, because if there's structures built by somebody not from Earth, right next door on the moon,
yes,
to paraphrase,
that's very serious, very, very serious.
Yeah,
the implications of it have religious implications. It would disrupt all kinds of paradigms. People would get quite upset because they would be speculating. Was it them? Was it us in an earlier civilization? No matter what the answer is, it's really big.
It's huge. It's a game changer. It changes everything. For one thing, if it's aliens, it means the human race as a species that evolved on this planet is not alone in the Milky Way galaxy, let alone the billions of galaxies you can see on those Hubble Deep Field photographs. And that means there's company out there. If there's company out there, it means they obviously were able to travel. Because again, the model we're discussing is aliens came to the solar system, picked the moon to build amazing things on, left for some reason, died, became extinct. Their stuff is now in ruins.
Maybe the hole in their dome, Richard.
Well, if you don't keep things up, things happen. When rocks come falling in.
Everybody knows you're on the moon. You get a hole in the dome, you go and you die.
No, not if it's a small hole and the dome is huge. It's about a volume thing. It would take years for air to leak out of any normal size holes on a volume of this scale.
Trying to be humorous.
Okay, you got plenty of time to get the robots up there and fix it. The key thing is, I want you to go now to image number 3.
Happily.
I'm going to be relentless about this because science is about data. I am sick to death of my stupid critics saying I'm nuts because they won't look at the data. It's like the cardinals who wouldn't look through Galileo's telescope, and they said he was nuts and violating God. Well, if you don't look at the evidence, you can't accuse someone of being whatever. So go to number 3.
Oh, sure you can. This is the internet. Anybody of anything.
Not in 1610.
All right, well, anyway.
Go to 3.
I'm there.
Okay. Zoom in.
Remarkable similarity of ruins at Apollo 12 and 14 landing sites.
Now, you see the black and white shot?
Yes, I do.
Overexposed?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. That's the lunar module Intrepid that Conrad and Bean landed on the moon in November of 69, 2 years after the surveyor shot.
Pretty damn full shot, actually.
Yeah. You notice those horizontal thingies in the sky?
I do. Looks like you know what it looks like? Looks like a wood fence.
Or a staircase.
I'd go with a wood fence.
All right. But now, if you want to flip back to number 2.
No, I don't.
Well,
I will.
Yeah, if I had a little more time, I would have prepped these side-by-side comparisons, but it's all
right.
right.
I'm back to 2.
Look on the left at the same kind of geometry.
I don't see a wood fence.
Well, it's dimmer because we didn't brighten it overly exposed.
Okay. Sorry.
It's the vertical, horizontal layering.
Okay. I really don't see that, Richard. I'm sorry.
Oh, you don't see the comparison? That's interesting.
No, I don't. Look, in shot 3, I clearly see a wood fence in some disrepair, but a wood fence.
Okay. Now, the source material for number 3, the black and white shot, is a frame from a movie that NASA put out called Pinpoint for Science. Back in those days, remember, this is the day when it was Cronkite, and we were all over NASA like, rug on the floor.
Yes.
And they were so eager to get their results out to keep people interested in the moon project.
That they released them very quickly.
Oh, they would bang these things out within days.
Right.
So they made what's called a SP film.
So it is your position, Richard, that because they released them so quickly, they didn't have time to change them and eliminate any possible reference to something artificial that was there.
Because it wasn't in their conception. All the honest guys in NASA had no results out to keep people interested in the moon project.
That they released them very quickly.
Oh, they would bang these things out within days.
Right.
So they made what's called a SP film.
So it is your position, Richard, that because they released them so quickly, they didn't have time to change them and eliminate any possible reference to something artificial that was there.
Because it wasn't in their conception. All the honest guys in NASA had no idea this stuff was there. So remember in history, it's always the earliest stuff that you can trust. And the later stuff, the folks that want to change things or make history go away or erase, they have time to do their dirty work. Mm-hmm. What NASA did is they produced these films with two companies, one in Virginia and one in Houston, and they got them out within days of the landing when the astronauts had come back, and then they sent them all over the world. So there are hard copy film prints in little canisters with this name on it, Pinpoint for Science, the history of the Apollo 12 mission, half an hour, all over the planet. In India, in Russia, in Japan, in Brazil, in Argentina, in Dubuque, Iowa. There's a zillion copies of this film out there that has absolute parallel data showing glass structures similar, if not identical, to the geometry seen on the Surveyor shots taken 2 years after Surveyor.
Stop for a second. Are you telling me that this thing that I'm calling a wood fence. And it does look like one. In fact, I have no idea what the vertical styrations, what they mean.
That's film scratches.
Film scratches.
Remember, all we've done is to scan this and put it up. We haven't touched it in any other way.
But you're telling me, basically, that this illustrates, again, the dome.
Yes. And it actually could be a portion of the same one because the Apollo 12 landing was not too far away as the crow flies. Of course, crows can't fly on the moon, no air.
Richard, I do admit the way the light is would suggest that something clear, opaque is there. I don't know what it is, but it does seem to illustrate something is there.
Well, you can eliminate by the process of known physics all the things it can't be. It can't be an atmosphere. Because we've got instruments that have measured the gazillion molecules on the moon's surface, and there is no air. We're going to get
but they are about to measure something they're calling an atmosphere, which I thought was weird.
But see, it's about definitions. The lunar atmosphere exists, but it is millions and millions and millions of times thinner than the air we're breathing, and optically you couldn't even see it. There's so few atoms and molecules per cubic foot, or
hardly worth talking about, or even measuring.
Well, on a long-term basis, it can have effects on the lunar surface. So, from a scientific point of view, that's why they're interested in measuring its properties. But from a practical point of view, it is absolutely as if it was not there. It certainly cannot create on film. Remember how slow film used to be compared to electronic cameras?
Yes.
And this is now taken not after sunset. This is taken in broad daylight. And what we've done is we've suppressed the light on the lunar surface, which is already overexposed, and we've brightened up the vacuum black lunar sky above the horizon to bring up the faint scattering of light from the ragged fragments of this shattered dome. Actually, a small, tiny piece of it. You're not seeing. You're so close. You're seeing just a tiny portion. Like if you were, think of a huge structure like the Superdome, and you're standing 2 feet away from the wall. That's what you're seeing. You're seeing a tiny portion of a much more vast structure, which under 1/6 lunar gravity would rise miles into the sky.
Somebody's objecting.
That is Morella. Morella loves to have national airtime. She has bothered George. She's actually barked during the commercials when I've gone to break at the top and the bottom of the hour. I'm talking to you. I'm not talking to her. She's pissed. Plus, you're a cat guy, and I know.
Now, listen. You're going to lead me down a bad road here. I said no bad language, and that is a rule on this program.
Okay.
Angry. She's angry.
All right. Oh, you really can't use that other word? Okay.
I'd rather not.
All right, fine. My point is that independent data sets, taken 2 years apart by two different sets of instrumentation.
Right.
One,
I'm there.
and see, these are not our only examples. I mean, you and I could spend days going through photograph after photograph showing the same stuff all over the moon. We don't have time.
Well,
that's why I have a website.
I need special medicine for it.
Now let's get to image number 4. Because this is where the MacGuffin is. This is where Hitchcock's end of the story comes to a point.
All right, we're on artbell.com, folks. So when you hear him say image 4, that means you should be following along with this, or it's going to be hard for you to even comment. Artbell.com. All right, now that's a nice picture.
Well, it's an artistic rendering. And what it shows is this 800-pound unmanned Laddie robotic spacecraft, which is headed toward the moon tonight. It's going to take them about 30 days in these wandering orbits that are very low energy to get there, even though you can go there in 3 days. They've chosen, because of the rocket system they used, a very elaborate way of saving energy so they can put as much payload in their spacecraft as possible. And this is the spacecraft that could, if we keep NASA honest, tell us if we're looking at ancient glass domes or we're looking at just some natural phenomenon that has never been encountered before in space and is just common to everybody.
All right, that's very hopeful, Richard. Trust me, I would like nothing more in the world than for you to be right and for them to take the images, and here comes a clear image of a dome. But I just know that you're going to say, if there's any dome in the picture, they're going to eliminate it before we ever see it.
Well, maybe and maybe not. Remember, when you and I did shows 10 years ago, the politics were a certain way. When you were talking with Stephen Greer earlier in the week, we had the phase of this bullet has your name on it to keep secrets.
Right.
My political assessment now is that there are so many people in NASA who are desperate to leak the real stuff out. And when we get into our Mars Curiosity part of the evening, you're going to see some far more amazing things that are obvious in every photograph that they're releasing.
Wouldn't you think by now, Richard, if NASA had been doctoring photographs, that a lot of people would have come forward and wanting nothing to do with hiding a gigantic truth of that magnitude from the world?
Which people are we talking about?
The people I just talked about, who would be so upset about hiding a truth of this magnitude from the world that they'd get the real thing out and say, here you go.
You mean people in NASA?
Sure.
Well, but they're just human beings. They've got car payments. They've got kids. They've got mortgages. They have to live. They have to survive. If they're told, a la what Greer was told, you either do this or you don't do anything, what are they going? What's their decision? And it doesn't even have to be life-threatening. All it has to be is job-threatening.
All there has to be is a few Snowdens in NASA.
But they have to be able to get the evidence out. You understand? If the evidence that
I do,
Snowden,
yes.
If Snowden hadn't carefully stashed away on old thumb drives these documents, these papers, would anybody be paying attention to a guy named Snowden? If he just came out and said there's this stuff going on?
No, and I'm saying if there was a Snowden within NASA, he'd pack away on microfilm or whatever he had to pack it away in, the real photographs, and get them to us.
Well, there's evidence that way back when, 30-some years ago, when NASA was preparing some of these films, if you know how film is prepared, where you basically splice different segments together, and you had to physically splice it, you had to make what's called internegatives and all that.
Yes.
Somebody actually did stash interesting information between the splices on some of these films. And the reason I know that is back when I started doing this work which was 20-some years, I had a guy, an expert Hollywood guy, who was a technician who worked in the major film industry, north of Los Angeles, and he was an inventor. He was a brilliant engineering genius, and he had created kind of the next generation of the moviola. You're familiar with moviolas, right?
Yes.
Which was this gadget they used to spool film
That's
through.
right. Right.
Well, this was a step up above because it had what was called a floating point stage or film gate, which means you could look at film and not put scratches on it. So you could run it back and forth, and you could edit it and chop it into pieces and splice it together, but you wouldn't put scratches, which is the bane of all film editors.
Okay, but that was then. This is now. Now we've got high resolution digital photography.
And that is where we will leave Richard Hoagland and Art Bell for tonight. Dome on the Moon? Who knows? We'll have to listen tomorrow for part 2. Till then, make sure you do like, share, and subscribe. Help us get to that goal of 50,000 views, 1,000 subscribers. So Boxy over next year sends us those nice packages we can send to you all. And, of course, Google puts us on the algorithms. Until next time, like, share, and subscribe, be kind to one another, and release the Krakens as we march along this overnight and every overnight here from day one. Have a great night's rest. We'll see you tomorrow.